What's up, you guys? Fightful Select subscribers, thank you all so much. If you're watching this on anything but Fightful Select, you're stealing it. Head over to FightfulSelect.com. This is the Weekender podcast. I talk about things that just aren't on Raw and SmackDown. NXT, Ring of Honor, 205 Live, Being the Elite, New Japan, Impact Wrestling, Lucha Underground, and I have plenty of that for you here today. I'm not going to put you on Fightful Select because you're already a subscriber. So I thank you and just ask that if you enjoy this content, tell the world. We're very new. We're trying to establish ourselves and our premium service. So thank you so much for joining in on this service. It means the world to me. It means that you all believe in us and we believe in you. So we had a few TV shows this week. Ring of Honor. Not New Japan. There was a New Japan Sakura Genesis show, but I put up my quick review of that on the free site because I like to do show reviews, pay-per-view reviews for free. This Ring of Honor show that started off the week, Briscoes versus King and Castle. This was the tag team champions, pardon me, against the Ring of Honor World Champion and the Television Champion. I thought that Colt Cabana did a great job of putting over the fact that a champion would lose on this show. That was a big deal. It was important, and it was important because Colt Cabana made it important. He made it a topic. He made it something that had attention called to it. Otherwise, on commentary, Ring of Honor needs to get better audio equipment, especially when Skrull and other people like the dogs are screaming into the mic and it's distorted. That doesn't happen with my mic. My $80 Yeti mic. So they've got Sinclair behind them, which that's a whole different hill of beans to handle, but they need to upgrade that. I just want to say, like, that match, it wasn't anything special. It really wasn't, but it was a good way to have the Briscoes put over, because the Briscoes, despite being a tag team, are still main event talents, and they are portrayed as such. That any one of those two guys could beat anybody else on the roster in a singles match. And I like it when tag teams are built like that. It's not always going to be the case, but with the Briscoes particularly, especially given their storied history in Ring of Honor, and we still haven't had a Mark Briscoe main event run yet, it's good that they do that. It's also kind of cool to see the Chris Jericho Cruise commercials on TV. But I thought that was kind of funny. Just seeing him, hearing his voice on Ring of Honor TV, albeit in a commercial, because he is working with Ring of Honor for this tour. I still do not give a damn about the the Kingdom. Blah, 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 Kingdom conspiracy, yada, yada, yada. I have never cared about Kingdom as a group under any iteration. Matt Taven's getting better. But it's like, if you're going to accuse a company, even in storyline, of conspiring against you, like, man, maybe don't be the guy that's being afforded all these opportunities. I just, it doesn't sit well with me. I've never been interested, and Ring of Honor does this conspiracy angle all the time. They did it with the Cabinet. They did it with Cedric Alexander and Veda Scott, and that's just been the last couple of years since I've been covering the show again. So I don't really like that. Cheeseburger and Kikutaru. I didn't expect to see a power slam from Cheeseburger on Kikutaru. That was funny. The dogs jump in and attack, and we're going to get a tag match between them soon. It'll be a fun little match, I'm sure, because Rhett Titus finds a way to hang around. I have an interview with him up on Fightful.com. Just search in our archives. Type Rhett Titus into our search bar at the top of Fightful.com. It's there. But yeah, I think that it's very good that they've got themselves a little niche here, and that's something Rhett Titus has talked to me about, is that he knows his spot, he knows his role in the company, and he embraces it. And because he embraces it, he has had longevity in the company. Purrazzo Iwatani, it is explicable to me that Purrazzo didn't get further in this tournament, considering that the division has largely been carried by her over the past year and a half, 2 years. Iwatani at times looks kind of awkward in the ring and made Deonna wait on her strikes an awful lot. And for Deonna, I think her selling is really the only thing left for her to round out. And she's already among the best women's wrestlers in the world, in my estimation. But that selling, when a woman like Iwatani forces you to sit around and wait for her next strike, you got to make it look like it's believable. And I don't think that Purrazzo is going to have any trouble adjusting to things like that. Purrazzo caught a big Fujiwara armbar outside. I love that she has adopted that, made that her finish, and really sold and hammered home that that is her finish. And her doing that on the outside gives a good excuse of why she didn't win, because she caught that on the inside. I would expect her to win. The Casadora is awesome. Hits it for the win, does Iwatani. Colt played it up big, as he is very good at doing. I just want to say Ring of Honor must really owe Stardom for that Mandy Leon win over Shirai, because I would have had one member of Stardom in the semifinals and the rest be Tenille, Kelly Klein, and Purrazzo, but that's not the way they went, and you can always go for Purrazzo versus Tenille or Kelly Klein afterwards, because I would imagine one of them will win. Or they can do the traditional American wrestling thing where you have a Japanese star will win your tournament, like I think Taka Michinoku did, Kairi Sane did. I think, gosh, who was it? I feel like Otani maybe. Gosh, won the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. Maybe even Liger back in the day. I can't remember. Cody and Kenny had this segment that I didn't think was that great at the end of the show, but still, I'm so excited for Cody versus Kenny Omega that it's like, well, who cares? Who cares if this segment didn't deliver, perhaps to the degree that it could have? By the way, if you're watching along live, go ahead, send in your questions. The Q&A show will run next week. That way I can get questions in after WrestleMania, and it doesn't quite date this so much. So, here's the situation. Cody comes out to the ring and says that Kenny Omega accused him of being a reject from WWE and that territory, but says that Kenny was a reject from the developmental system territory. Well, that was a good line. It got a great reaction. It wasn't Kenny wasn't rejected. He wanted to leave. So there is that, but that's just, me hammering in a spot where hammering in a hole that for TV it works. Omega comes out and says that it's, and I got to say, it's cool to see Kenny Omega on Ring of Honor TV. It's not something that I'm used to right now. So seeing him there is very, very, very different and cool. Omega says that he's sure that Brandy wants to kiss him again based on the length of that kiss. They brawl, then Paige jumps in, then the Bucks, then Skrull and Flip. It's worth noting, I don't think that Hangman Page took any shots during this. He was just trying to split it up. And Flip Gordon involved too, now that he's teaming with Young Bucks on Sunday. So as far as, or Saturday rather, as far as that show Saturday goes, it is a loaded show. I'm going to cover it Sunday on our post show on our podcast and do a bit of a WrestleMania pre-show, so to speak. We have Tenille Dashwood, Sumi Sakai. I think Tenille's going to win that match. I think Kelly Klein's going to beat Iwatani. And then I think Dashwood beats Kelly Klein, because Kelly Klein has been portrayed as a heavy badass. And if I'm Ring of Honor, I hitch my wagon to Tenille, because Tenille has a real opportunity to be one of the first big female North American draws on the indies and outside of WWE. So I would go with her. I'd try to get Chelsea Green signed too if I could. Briscoes against Tanahashi and Lethal. Going with the Briscoes here. I think Tanahashi's going to coast. He's got a big match at Dontaku, so I know that he doesn't want to mess up anything there. SoCal Uncensored, Young Bucks and Flip Gordon. I think Bucks and Flip Gordon win, and this provides some very entertaining content for Being the Elite. Kenny King over Silas Young. I would say they think a lot of Kenny King, and I'm not buying it right now, but Kenny King's probably winning this. Ishii against Punishment Martinez. I would go Punishment Martinez here, because you need Punishment Martinez to get a big win to keep portraying him as a TV title and world title contender if you're going to keep sliding him into big matches. And Ishii can afford it. Plus, you're going to see Martinez just tower over Ishii. Hangman Page and Kota Ibushi. I think Ibushi wins to get back the loss that he had at Sakura Genesis. Dalton Castle and Marty Scurll. I would go with Marty Scurll to, as I said, further fracture Bullet Club, because Cody maybe gets a little pissed off at him. Cody versus Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega should win, but if you're trying to really, really nail in that Cody is this shit heel, he finds a way to win. But I mean, they stack this deck and they say that Final Battle is their WrestleMania, but my God, this show is, I think, way better than Final Battle was. Whatever. 205 Live, Lucha House Party, Tozawa and Itami, they were really laying it in on Tuesday during their match. This has been slow to get me hooked, but I'm hooked now. I don't want to say hooked, but I'm very interested. They've done it with a ton of physicality and just wanting to beat the crap out of each other. So I'm liking this. This eventually broke down. The match got called off. Tony Nese is backstage, and Drake Maverick comes back. And I'm wondering how many of these, you suck, but you'll be good. Remember who you are, promos that we're going to see. That works here and there. That works a couple times a year, I think. But you can't do it every 3 weeks. And that's what Drake Maverick does. And I'm sure he's told to do it. Drake Maverick does it very well. But, of course, he does it, and Tony Nese goes out and beats the brakes off of a guy. Mark Andrews doing a selfie promo while Gulak does the traditional setup. I think shows and sets up the contrast and the difference between Gulak and Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is more of a selfie guy. Meanwhile, Drew Gulak is more the kind of guy that's going to have a professional setup and ask WWE for his time. So I thought it was subtle, but it was a nice way to do it, in my estimation. And those are some of the things that you have to do whenever you're making a change like that and you're trying new things. And we'll talk about that a little bit later about how WWE, for better or for worse, has opted to go a different route with some of these promos, with the sit-downs, with the in-rings, with the Q&A format, with the selfie format, with the gorilla position format. WWE is making an effort to try to do different things for promos, as opposed to walking a guy out to the ring, handing him a mic and say, there you go, talk. Because I've said this a million times. If a babyface goes out in front of a crowd and he's like, I'm mad at this guy and this is why I'm mad, that's really middle school, man. Like, you're just out there talking shit to talk shit. You're out there whining just to whine. Have a Renee Young or a Charlie Caruso prompt that person. Show them in Gorilla in a different environment. If they want to talk shit, don't make them go out in front of all the fans and do it. Hey, everybody, pay attention to me. Pay attention to my problems. Even though it is a TV show, having a short selfie, I mean, that's the amount of time that you get out of an entrance. So it consumes a lot less of the product for the consumer. Consumer gets more in-ring action, a lot of stuff. So I like some of the changes. The selfie promos, I don't mind when they don't throw up the words on there, but I understand why they do it. It's a thing. But I mean, they do it the lame way. If you see videos on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, a lot of times it'll have the transcription of it underneath the video for people who are scrolling past and they want to capture the interest of that person. Also, those videos are often muted. So that's one of the reasons they do it. But if WWE has Mark Andrews that's like, I'm going to skate all over you, somebody's going to scroll by that and be like, what a dipshit. How lame is that? Nah. Main event, Kalisto versus Buddy Murphy. Man, I had somebody say maybe Adam Cole gets injured at NXT. I think it was Option Zero on Twitter. Big supporter of the show. Thanks to him, because I like this talking point. Says that maybe Adam Cole gets injured and Buddy Murphy slides into that ladder match. While I think Buddy Murphy would be awesome, I don't think 205 Live can afford to lose Buddy Murphy right now. That's how important I've seen Buddy Murphy to this brand over the last month or two. Man, did he nail it. He has taken something like being off TV pretty much for a year. He got himself in shredded, ridiculous shape, and who knows if he's really 205 pounds. I don't know. But my God, man. He is just, his finish, it was sloppy. Sorry, I trailed off a little bit there. The tweets are coming in hot and heavy over this Conor McGregor situation, but my attention is on this show. This Kalisto versus Buddy Murphy match. It's so cool to hear 205 Live chants, just 205 chants, which Kalisto turned into Lucha chants, which are dorky as shit. He did it, but I mean, just embrace the 205 chant, my man. It's a good thing to have the brand over. You're on it. Kalisto's counter into the rear naked choke was so sick. He ran up the ropes, and it looked like he was going to do a Salida del Sol, then took the back of Buddy Murphy. And then there was this running suplex on the apron. Hose me down. I love a good running suplex on the mat. But on the apron, it looked nasty, but Kalisto came out unhurt. This was a downright great match. And that spot on the apron is one that you would not have seen a couple of years ago. Jesus, man, they went at it here. I don't know how I feel about the sloppy Murphy's Law because it kind of fit into the struggle of the match. It was a titanic struggle for both men. They were on par with one another. Because Kalisto lost, I don't see him below Buddy Murphy after this match. And I love Murphy's Law. I'm going to say it every single time I see him do it. I sit around and try to think of moves. I always did when I was actively competing in the ring too. And to have that half Nelson, throw it up and then spin around. Ooh, that works really well. It's like when Paige had the Page turner or whatever it was, and it didn't work too well. Man, I bet she wishes she would have thought of that one because that's the right way to pull off the type of aesthetic that she was going for here. As far as cruiserweights on the show, on the show WrestleMania, I think they should be in the Battle Royal. And there's really no reason to not have them in the Battle Royal. I know that some people say, oh, to make them look smaller, yada, yada, yada. But I think they should be in it. If anything, you should have one star in particularly go far in it, be the last 2 or 3. Help put that brand over. I know that they've got all the access shows. By the way, Fightful's Jason Kincaid is on access, and that's unbelievable. That's so good for him. And he's in there with NXT guys. Fabian Eichner, who WWE brass, at least at the Performance Center, think a lot of, drawing comparisons to Cesaro. That's pretty high praise for a guy who's starting out in WWE. My God, that's good stuff. And some of the matches that they put on during Access, those are loaded shows. I'm going to pull up the match cards here. Sorry, I'm going solo on these, so you're going to have a little bit of dead air here. But WWE Access 2018, they just started to bring in these psycho tournaments. Leo Rush, Buddy Murphy, Dan Matha, Drew Gulak. So see, you're going to get the cruiserweights probably on these shows. Fabian Eichner, Jason Kincaid, Akira Tozawa, Kona Reeves, Mustache Mountain against Tino Sabatelli and Riddick Moss, Street Profits against Cesar Bononi and Adrian Jout. I don't even know how to pronounce that bro's name. Nikki Cross and Aaliyah, Kairi Sane and Bianca Belair, Lindsay Dorado, Raul Mendoza, Mark Andrews, Zach Gibson, Chris Dijak, and Arya Davari, Hideo Itami against Wolfgang, Sanity against the Forgotten Sons, TM61 against Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch, Dakota Kai against Lacey Evans, Candice LeRae against Peyton Royce. A good half dozen of those names should be on the shows anyway, but there's so much wrestling. They have enough content at Access to get them 3 months worth of NXT TV. They probably won't do it, but Keith Lee versus Cassius Ohno, 205 Live action, including TJP Kalisto, Gentleman Jack Gallagher. If I were them, I would film content and get it ahead. Get some exclusive stuff. Just, man, that's how I am. If I go to WrestleMania weekend, it's content, content, content. You go there, you get as much stuff as you possibly can. My God. That is just so much So much, more than I even realized. And they're really dipping into the well. 205 Live. They've got so many brands right now. If WWE had it their way, they'd have Raw, SmackDown, 2 NXT brands touring, 205 Live, and then probably just something else. Maybe a female brand even touring if they could have their way. Geez, and these matches happen today, Thursday, these 6 p.m. matches. We're going to talk all about those if they release them on next week's show. I can't wait for that. There's a lot of cool stuff. And I'll have Bloodsport and Janela Spring Break, a whole lot of other stuff to touch on. Geez. What a loaded weekend. This, in my opinion, in my estimation, this is the most loaded weekend of wrestling in pro wrestling history, bar none. I don't think it's even close. I wanted to talk about Impact and Lucha Underground before I got into NXT. I spoke to Ivelisse in an interview that you all can hear over at Fightful.com right now. And anytime I'm offered any number of talents, Ivelisse, if her name is on the list, I talk to her. Because she does not give a shit, man. She doesn't give a shit. I said, hey, are you booked to wrestle at all this weekend? Nope. Kind of pissed off about it. Well, yeah, you probably should be. You're among the best female wrestlers in the world, period, regardless of promotion. And I think that maybe sometimes her unwillingness to hide her feelings comes off as abrasive to fans and maybe even promoters and stuff. But I mean, the woman has had a year, as Casey of Squared Circle Siren said on Twitter. She has had a year and she's been through some stuff, man. But Jesus, this woman not being booked on that Impact Lucha Underground show, I like a lot of what Impact is doing. I like the format of their show now where they have embraced that they are an indie with TV. And their ratings our viewership has reflected that. Their viewership is up near the levels of Final Deletion. They're experiencing the best run that they have had since, I think, the Final Deletion era and probably since they were on Destination America. But here's the card. You have Austin Aries and Rey Fenix against Penta and Alberto El Patron. That's a banger. LAX against Damac and Killshot. We'll see how that goes. That could be a botch fest. Ali against Taya. That's going to be good. But there's no reason you can't throw an Ivelisse in there and have Ali as the Impact girl, Ivelisse as the Lucha Underground girl, and Taya as both. They really should have done that and got Ivelisse on that show. I think that she is such a fantastic wrestler that you got to do that. DJ Z, Andrew Everett, and Desmond Xavier. I wondered if Andrew Everett was even in Impact anymore, but I guess he is. Against Aerostar, King Cuerno, and Drago. Going to be a banger as well. Eddie Edwards against Jeremiah Crane. That's Sammy Callahan of Impact. That's another one that I would have done. If you have a guy who is on both, throw in a third guy. That way you can have kind of the mix of the two. That's an I Quit match. I don't know why you would bill him as Jeremiah Crane there. I know they're going to film it for their TV and stuff, and they'll call him Callahan, whatever. Otherwise, that show's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait. I'll probably talk about that Sunday as well, because we have the UFC and the NXT shows on Saturday night. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and just all the wrestling this weekend. How can anybody have the time to take it in? I posted that picture on Twitter. I'll have to have the Zordon set up in order to take in all that wrestling. Whoo, boy. Whoo, boy. Also, this week was the 205 Live, or not 205 Live, NXT show, rather. This was one of those studio shows, essentially. But Charlie Caruso is really good at that. I think that she fits in that role and does it very well. We had AOP against Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong in the finals of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. It is hard to imagine a more legit-looking team than AOP. They look the part. They have the credentials. They can work. That being said, Akam unleashed a really shitty slam on Dunne that I think was supposed to be reversed. It's a hard-hitting match that Undisputed interferes in, and it's the typical thing. Oh, they think if there's no contenders, they won't have to have a match. that shit. Come on, man. How many times can you do that? I don't like it. I think it's pointless. Pointless. Dumb. Stop doing it over and over again. You know what happens. William Regal's coming out. He's making it a triple threat match. Now they have to defend it against two people. Adam Cole is not happy that he's going to have to defend his championship or defend Undisputed Era's championship and be in the ladder match. And Regal gave them a lot of options. He said that Bobby Fish could do it alone, or that Kyle O'Reilly could do it alone, that Adam Cole could just not be in the match, or he could withdraw from the ladder match and just make it easier for himself. I like that Regal gave him these options because maybe Kyle O'Reilly has to defend it on his own. And that hasn't necessarily been broached. I do love that they haven't stripped anybody of the championship. If you can avoid stripping somebody of a championship, then do it, man. Just do it, man. So there's this Kairi Sane match against Vanessa Bourne. Kairi Sane repeatedly went to the top rope, like right after each other. It was a little too video game-ish for me. And I don't like the double stomp where the opponent has to hold the top rope. So I was not a big fan of this match. Kairi Sane, I like the majority of her work, but she still has some stuff to work on, obviously. And her offense is a part of that. Like, you can't just spam going to the top rope. It's not a video game. Other things you got to do in the match to set that up and make it easier for yourself. And just that spot where your opponent has to hold the top rope, that doesn't make any sense. Are they trying to pull themselves up? Because it doesn't look like it when you're doing it for 5 or 6 seconds. Kairi Sane got the win. I mentioned earlier these ways that WWE tries to do the promos, and I mentioned about 5 or 6. In NXT, they have these fake media scrums, and they had one with Lacey Evans where she's back there and she's talking to quote-unquote media. And they've got their phones, you can't see them and all that stuff, but every single time, it's a bunch of media arguing over each other. Lacey, 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 Lacey. That's not how we act. It's not how it goes. 5 or 6 different times, but the funniest thing was the guy on the last one. Go back and watch it. Because you can tell that he's expecting everybody to argue over him because that's his role. And he sounds way too enthused. Dakota Kai! Dakota Kai! What about Dakota Kai? I'm like, dude. I know that I give our boys at Monster some free publicity all the time, but he's just chugging them. Double fisting them, injecting them into his eyeballs. He's like doing the butt chug and all that stuff with Monster Energy. Jesus, dude, calm down. I didn't really like the promo. I did like Ember Moon's promo backstage. That was very good, where she had to sit down, man. She's getting better, and if she gets better at promos, oh boy, all bets are off. Because to me, that's really all she was missing was her promo ability. And based on what I've seen over the last couple of months, that does not seem to be an issue anymore. Now, granted, working with a woman like Shayna Baszler will bring out the realism in you. And that did it. Killian Dane, Lars Sullivan, I didn't think this was very good. I didn't think this episode of 205 or NXT was very good, honestly. And that does not happen a lot. But I just didn't think it was great. Sullivan tried to take a bump outside. It was ugly. I don't want to call it Eva Marie-esque, but he took it from the top rope. He kind of fell and then bumped and rolled. It was nasty. Yuck. I mean, nasty and like it was lame, not nasty as in like it was vicious. Velveteen Dream shows up and he perches the top rope and does the thing like, which one am I going to jump on? And then neither, because Adam Cole runs in. Then EC3 comes in. Then Ricochet comes in. I'm stoked for that ladder match, man. That's going to be a fun time. A hell of a match that's going to be. And what I like about it, and we can just transition right into NXT TakeOver predictions and my talk and my thoughts on that. I like that it has some components that aren't traditional ladder match components, like Lars Sullivan, EC3, and Killian Dane. I don't think Killian Dane or Lars Sullivan stand a damn chance of winning this. I think that EC3 is the story of this match, and whether he wins or loses it, he's either going to become a champion that title is anchored to, or he's going to be like entitled, like he already was, and demand that he get that championship. He's going to obsess over that championship, in my estimation. Velveteen Dream, I don't think Velveteen Dream needs a championship. He is just quickly, over the past 8-9 months, developed into one of my favorite workers in the world. It's a hell of a hand to have in developmental when you have a 22, I think 23, 24-year-old. He's had some issues in the past, but in the shape that he's in, be so different in the ring and out of the ring. And he's able to put on matches like what he did with Aleister Black. Hot dog, man. Adam Cole, Adam Cole's just over. He's just over. And he's getting better and better even as he's came to NXT. Like, you see some of his Ring of Honor work that I wasn't overwhelmed with, and I was like, is this going to work for him? Yeah, it's worked out for him. And being with Fish and O'Reilly, I think, has worked out for him as well. Ricochet, I think he's the second coming of Rey Mysterio. It's what I think. I believe he's that good. Everything about him screams amazing to me. So in the ring, I think they have something very, very special with him. And I hope he is not eventually, and I don't want to say relegated to 205 Live, because 205 Live, at the very least, their main events every single week are must watch. I don't know how you could miss 205 Live every single week or any given week, the main event. It's something special. However, his amount of special translates and transcends weight classes. So he should be that foil that they wanted Kalisto to be for so long, but Kalisto didn't quite have the charisma to do it. So I think that Ricochet will be that, and I don't think he'll necessarily go to 205 Live. I'm sure he'll spend some time on 205 Live in his career, but I don't think that's where he's going to be. Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa. If Gargano wins this non-sanctioned match, he gets back in NXT. NXT is going to have to do 3-hour pay-per-views at some point. You have a lot of people who are not on this show. A lot of women who are not on this show that should be on this show and haven't been on any shows over the past 4 months. Billie Kay, Peyton Royce, Nikki Cross. Lots of good. Kairi Sane has barely been on. So I think Johnny Gargano stays because I think he eventually gets that NXT title run. That being said, there are a lot of people I thought would eventually get NXT title runs and didn't and moved on up to the main roster. This is going to be violent. I hope neither man gets injured. It'll be Ciampa's first match since last May, 11 months. I'll never forget being in Highland Heights, Kentucky, and throughout the entire NXT live event show, they put over this like Ohio River celebration or Cincinnati celebration or something, because Johnny Gargano is from Ohio and he made his name in Ohio. And it was going to be a big celebration when they won the tag match. Well, they had to end the tag match and it was never mentioned again. They had to end it quickly. Well, it's because Tommaso Ciampa tore up his ankle, I believe it was. And then he tore his ACL in the trying to go a couple nights later. Or maybe whatever it was, he was injured. And we've not seen him wrestle since then. We've seen him do some good promo and character work. We've seen him make a good appearance at the end of the last Takeover. But this is the culmination. And it shows you that absence can make the heart grow fonder. And Tommaso Ciampa is another one of those talents that I see as special. And I'll bring it up again. Watch how he was written off of Ring of Honor TV. Mwah. It was perfect. It was the best. It was great. I'm looking for more story out of these two. You can carry this until the next Takeover if you want. You can probably carry this into later this year because you're not seeing it on TV every week. That's the beauty of NXT. You don't have to see these guys every single week. So when it happens every second week, every third week, or maybe twice a month, it's not as redundant. It's not as stale. It's a lot more fresh to me than some of the things that we have to sit through every week and they have to force content down our throats for. So I think Gargano wins. Undisputed Era. Authors of Pain, Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne. Strong and Dunne winning would be an upset. I wouldn't put the title on Dunne because he's already got one, but the visual of Pete Dunne having 2 championships is kind of cool. Undisputed Era, I'm not going to put it past them or retain it because I don't know that Adam Cole is going to win the North American Championship. And I also don't know that he necessarily fits into the crowded main event scene right now with Almas, Black, Gargano, Ciampa, and then whatever falls out of EC3, Dane, Ricochet, Dream, Sullivan. You got Sanity just hanging around there somewhere too. Where are they? I don't know. So if Undisputed, I could see Undisputed Era winning, but maybe something incredibly violent happening, like Authors of Pain just F them up. Just fuck them up. And maybe that's Authors of Pain's swan song, because Authors of Pain need to be on that main roster. They are main roster ready and ready to be with Samoa Joe. Strong and Dunn, I thought Strong was going to stick around in 205 Live. Personally, I was surprised that he didn't, but I was glad that they went that route and did something different and brought him up for that, because that says a lot about what they think about 205 Live. They're willing to put some juice into it. They're willing to put some power into it. So I'm glad that they did that. I don't think Authors of Pain win. I think they're heading to the main roster, and that's just my guess. That's not like an educated thing. Whatever. Ember Moon, Shayna Baszler. I've spoken numerous times on how vividly I see this one ending. Ember Moon goes for the Eclipse, and Shayna just locks it on. Locks that rear naked choke on, puts her out, maybe gets a little tap, tap, tap-a-roo. And maybe Ember moves on. You know, WWE, NXT, they're big about mandatory rematches. That just straps you down, man. It really constricts you. It really limits you what you can do. Who's next? It makes you beat somebody twice or makes somebody look stupid after that. I would get rid of that. But maybe Ember Moon's heading up to the main roster after the Superstar shakeup. But there are not a lot of baby faces. There's Kairi Sane, Nikki Cross, I guess. I mean, an NXT women's division can't survive without Ember Moon. Nikki Cross, Shayna Baszler, Kairi Sane, Peyton, Billy. That's off the top of my head. Five girls that are, and if you got 5 girls in that division, like I said, they're not on TV all the time. You can rock with that. So I'm cool, and I'm excited about some of the people they have coming into the Performance Center pretty soon. Hot dog. Andrade Cien Almas versus Aleister Black. The build to this match has been garbage. Just trash. I've hated it. The short jokes and Almas trying to drown Aleister Black. It's been really, really bad. A lot of the build-up to some of these matches just has not been good. I think that Ember Moon and Shayna Baszler's has been good. There was no build to the ladder match. It was whatever. There was no real build to the Dusty Road Tag Finals and the Tag Championships. That was a tournament. Whatever. Gargano Ciampa, pretty good. Fair since the return, like Ciampa coming out and being silent. But in the ring, this is going to be loaded. It's going to be wild. And Almas versus Black. Man, I could see them stretching this. I could see Black getting beaten, but it being nefarious means, and then they run it back here in a couple of months. So we'll see about that. We'll see how that goes. I think Almas is going to win. I think it's going to win. Minoru Suzuki in for low key at Matt Riddle's Bloodsport, which happens, I think, right now. I was told by Matt that he found out 2 nights ago that this would be happening. So this was a bit of a surprise. He's also going to face James Ellsworth at Joey Janela's Spring Break. Joey Janela facing the great Sasuke. Man, and I love that one. You have the Wildcat Sports Show that Hurricane's on, Billy Gunn, Hardcore Holly, Rachel Ellering, Jeff Cobb. You have all the WrestleCon shows this week. It's unbelievable. We're going to have live results of all that stuff at Fightful.com. I'm really excited, guys. This is a lot of hard work. I want to thank you all. And I know that this stream isn't as interactive as the other ones because we don't have as many subscribers right now, but we're working on that. We want to become a source in premium content. I think I'm considering doing like a Fightful weekly, like mini chat where I talk about some of the things, my exclusives behind the scenes, talking to people, interviews, stuff like that. Might do that every couple of weeks. I don't know. But I've got a lot of exclusive info that I can kind of give via those interviews and Fightful Wrestling Weekly, which drops every Friday. But I just want to thank you all so much for joining Fightful Select, for being a part of Fightful Select. It means a lot to me that you all believe in me and Fightful and the content that we put out there. I can't express that enough. We started 2 years ago, just under 2 years ago. And to be honest with you, as far as scoops go, there's 3 of us. I think we're up there, and really the only people that you could even argue have more than us maybe are Observer and PW Insider. That's it. That's it. I don't know of anybody else that's had more interviews, more exclusives, more behind-the-scenes stuff, more podcasts than us. We work really, really hard, and Jimmy Van has invested a lot of money into it. And I'm pretty sure the man just wants to see it break even. So I appreciate you all supporting us and doing all that. Let the world know about Fightful Select. Tell them that you like our content if you do. But thank you guys so much. We're out.